Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Dad to Dad. Today's video, I'm not going to lie, it may trigger quite a few people. The topic itself is triggering, not just to me, but a lot of other men out there too, and maybe even some women. Because the thing is, this type of thing happens way more often than people would like to admit. But instead of us having an open conversation and discussing it, most of us bottle it up. We carry it around, we suffer silently, and meanwhile, the people who cause the damage, they just walk away and keep going about their day-to-day lives like nothing ever happened. So I want to put this out there clearly and directly. What would you do if the mother of your child refused to let you see your kid? What if she made things so difficult, so tense, so emotionally draining that it made you think about walking away? Not because you didn't care about your child or children, but because every time you showed up, you got punished just for trying to be a father. I'm not talking about the guys who are abusive or harmful in any way. If you're out there hurting your child physically, mentally, or verbally, then no, you absolutely should not be around them. But that's not what this is about. I'm talking about men who want to be there, the men who are fighting to be present, the men who are trying to parent through the pain that they have to experience. Because I've lived this. I've been accused personally. I've been called abusive, physically and verbally, when all I've ever done was try to show up and be kind. I know what it's like to be painted as a villain for no reason, other than the fact that you didn't comply with someone else's version of control. This video is about that, about what happens when parenting gets hijacked, about what happens when one parent decides they're the only one that matters, and what it looks like when men try to keep showing up anyway. And it's very important that you take these things into consideration. So today, we're going to break down a story that starts on Father's Day. Now, this is a true story, a story that should have been about love and family, but instead turned into manipulation, verbal abuse, and an all out attempt to erase completely a father from his child's life. Because this isn't about power. It shouldn't be about control. It should be about being a parent, about loving your kids, raising them, protecting them, and having the freedom to do exactly that without someone weaponizing the situation against you. And if that's you, or if you know someone who's going through something similar, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment. Share your experience. But more than that, I want to make sure that this is positive because the experiences that we have can pave the way for someone else. So, for those fathers, for those of you who have gone through this and found a way, I want to hear what made you keep going because someone out there needs to hear it. They need to know it's still possible, that despite how hard it got, that there's still hope and there's still a reason to fight. So, with that being said, thank you for participating. But let's get into the video. So, let me tell you about something that happened to someone very close to me. This actually took place on Father's Day, a day that's supposed to honor fathers, but instead, this turned into something completely different. This gentleman has a young son, not even a 1 year old yet. And since the day that the baby was born, he's never once been allowed to take his son anywhere, not to the park, not to the store, not even for a walk. The mother insists that if he wants to see his son, she has to be there every single time, no exceptions. That's not about safety. That's not about concern. It's about control. And she's made that very clear. This is my child. No one else has a say. Can any of you relate? And that's the part that really gets to me because when someone starts saying my child like that, with that tone and with that intention, they're not talking about parenting. They're talking about a possession, and a child is not a car. So on Father's Day, this father just wanted to see his child. That's it. No drama, no argument, just be present. And I even asked him, are you sure it's a good idea? because I understand that their history. And he told me, hey, I just want to see my son on Father's Day. That's all I care about. Respect. And that's what sticks with me because even with everything that he's gone through dealing with this, all the stress, the tension, the barriers, he still made the decision to show up anyway. Granted, of course, with conversation and communication with the mother. Now, I wasn't in the house, so I can't speak completely on what happened during that visit. He went to her family's house. But from what I do know, it seemed like everything at the moment during the visit was calm, at least for a while. The mother didn't have her car that day, so she asked him for a ride, and he agreed. But somewhere during that drive, an argument broke out. I don't know what happened, I don't know the specifics, and maybe that part doesn't matter because what happened next really crossed the line. She started verbally lashing out, mind you, he's driving, and then physically assaulted him on Father's Day after asking him for a ride. Now, let me make something clear because I've known this man my entire life and I already can hear the chatter that's going to come. I have never, not once, known him to raise his hand to a woman. I don't even think he popped his daughter when she went to put a spoon in an electrical outlet when she was a toddler, let alone hit an adult woman. So for someone to try and paint him as abusive, that doesn't feel wrong. It feels like it was manufactured. And then, as if that wasn't enough, she made a call. She reached out to his mother and tried to flip the entire situation, tried to make it sound like he was the one causing problems, that he was dangerous and that he was a villain. She told his mother at that time, during the conversation, I don't care what it costs. I'm going to spend whatever I have to spend to make sure he's not a part of my child's life. Let that sink in for a minute. She didn't say, let's figure this out. Not, we had a disagreement. Her goal is to erase him, period. And I've seen this pattern many times before. I've been on the other side of that phone call. I've experienced all of this firsthand. Well, probably not all of it. That moment when you realize this isn't actually about what happened, this is more about control. It's about creating the narrative of someone's image and creating chaos and then flipping that story so that you come out looking like the problem. But that's not parenting. That's not protection. That's tactic. It's intentional. And it's the kind of thing that leaves kids emotionally torn and confused every single time. Now, here's where things actually gets even more messed up. This father, the same man who's been trying to be present since day one, isn't on the birth certificate. And it's not because he ran off. It's not because he denied his child. He was there. He was actually present at the hospital the day that his son was born, or he went there rather, but he never got the chance to sign a paperwork because the mother had him removed. I'm not talking about they had an argument or a disagreement. I'm not talking about where they potentially both lost their tempers. He called security on him and had him physically escorted out of the hospital before the baby arrived. There was no threat, no violence, nothing warranted that kind of reaction. But she didn't want him there. And if I had to guess, it's because she didn't want him signing the birth certificate. She wanted that control. And the easiest way to keep it was to make sure his name never went on that piece of paper. So now, despite being fully invested, despite wanting to raise his son, he has to go through a legal process just to prove he's worthy of being called dad. I mean, let's walk you through for those who don't know what it actually looks like. And granted, this is just my opinion, but first, he's going to have to hire an attorney if he can't willingly get the mother to agree, or if the mother doesn't agree willingly. The attorney then will potentially reach out to the mother to ask if she would agree to a DNA test. If she refuses, which she absolutely could, the attorney then has to go and get the courts involved. file a motion, and then the court steps in and says, okay, we're ordering you now to have a DNA test done. And then you take the DNA test, or he takes the DNA test, then the baby takes the DNA test for, or the mom does for the child. You have to wait for the results to come back. And then, and only then, can he file to request for parenting time. I mean, then of course he has to have his name put on the birth certificate legally so that he can make decisions for his child. Then he can request parenting time. And all of this, that's before he even gets to ask to see his child on his own. That's just the battle to be legally recognized. And let's be real, that's not free. That's money out of his pocket. Money that could be going towards his child's needs. It could be going towards diapers, towards food, a savings account, school, for the future, like saving for college funds or first car. Instead, it's being spent trying to prove he's allowed to love his own kid. And a part that really messes me up about all of this is even though she's already acknowledged that he's the father, even though he's already invested in being present and being a father, she still holds all of that power. She controls the access. She can delay cooperation, and she can use that child as leverage. And the most messed up part about it is it seems as though the system allows it. And this isn't rare. This happens all the time. I've seen it. I've lived it. And I know way too many other men who are stuck in the same position, fighting to prove that they deserve a role that they never tried to walk away from to begin with. So here's the thing, fellas. Whether you're in a situation right now or feel like it's headed in that direction, you cannot wait. The longer you wait, the more comfortable the system gets with you being on the outside looking in. The longer you delay taking action, the more absence gets treated like a decision, if you know what I mean. And let me be clear, I'm not here to judge you or say if you're a good father or not. I'm not here to hand out awards or assign blame to anyone. I've had moments myself where I question, am I doing this right? I felt guilt, uncertainty. I've had to correct myself, and I'm still growing with the help and aid of others that I trust. But what I do know is this: the blueprint to fatherhood doesn't start with perfection. It merely starts with your presence. And building that, constructing that blueprint is going to take effort, and it takes intention, and it takes work. Some of y'all are out here acting like you're waiting on permission to be a father. Some of y'all are scared it's going to cost too much or take too long or cause too many problems. And I do get that. I do. But if you wait too long, the courts aren't going to see a concerned father. They're going to see someone who didn't care enough to act. You wait 1 year, 2 year, 3 years. And by the time you show up and say, I want to be a part of my child's life, the judge is going to look at you in silence like that was your choice. It's not a consequence of her actions. And what happens then? You get handed a limited schedule, maybe a weekend here and there, and a few hours, maybe during other times. You become a visitor, a guest, and a drop in parent. And you become what I like to call a weekend warrior. Now, let me break this down because this is in no way throwing shade at anyone. This is a reality stance. Okay? So, a weekend warrior, from my perspective, is a parent who only sees their kid every other weekend or, 3 weekends out of the month. And mind you, this is not always by choice. They don't get the day to day. They don't get to do the homework. They don't wake up early or handle meltdowns on Tuesday. They get that 2 to 3 days a month, 4 or 5 if you're lucky. And because that time is so short, it becomes all about fun. What can we do that's exciting? What can we squeeze in here and there before I drop you back off? How can I make this time the most memorable time I can? And let's be real, even that at times is a challenge. Because depending on the person you're co parenting with, making memories isn't just about fun. Oftentimes it becomes a negotiation. You find yourself having to ask, explain, or justify time you barely get anyway. Like somehow spending 2 weekends a month with your child still isn't enough to just let you enjoy them. And that's the reality a lot of fathers live in. And yeah, you might do fun stuff. You might bond, you might laugh. But without that structure, without consistency, you don't really get to parent. That's not fatherhood. That's a role. And we don't want more actors. We need parents. And you can be just that. Now, I understand why some men walk away. I understand the mental weight, the frustration, and the feeling like the game was rigged against you from the start. But that doesn't make it okay. Because when you walk away, you don't just distance yourself from the other parent, you disappear from the child's life. And I can promise you, even if it seems easier right now, that decision will follow your child for years to come. They'll grow up asking questions, wondering why you weren't there, trying to fill in blanks that you probably wouldn't even have to answer if you just stayed and fought. You might not be able to fix everything in your past if you've experienced this already, but you can take a stand now. And sometimes that stand means lawyers, courtrooms, objections, and motions. It's uncomfortable. It can be extremely slow, and it can definitely seem unfair at times, but it's also necessary. If we want things to change, we have to begin changing them because your kids are watching you. They're watching how you show up, they're watching how you carry yourself, especially when it's hard. And I'm not saying that you should talk to your kids about this kind of stuff. That's not what I'm suggesting. I'm not suggesting you involve them in any way. But kids pick up on a lot more than what we give them credit for. I know that from experience. But how you carry yourself now teaches them how to carry themselves later. And at the end of the day, you've got to be willing to stand up, not just for yourself, but for your child's sake as well. And it's important to note that when you do this, don't do it out of anger. Do not do it out of spite. Do it out of love, because that's what they need to see. Not war, not revenge, just a father doing whatever it takes to love his child the right way. Listen, fellas, you're not going to have all the answers. You're not going to have it all figured out. But you do need to stand on what you believe in. And if you believe that your child deserves a consistent and loving father, then you've got to fight for that. Now, I understand how difficult that can be mentally, emotionally, and psychologically. I've gone through it myself. And when I went through court, it was one of the most stressful experiences of my life. I stayed up late, probably 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, combing through documents, emails, and messages. Any and everything that my attorney asked me for that he said he needed, I made sure he had it and in a timely manner. But that was even when I had to be up for work at 5 in the morning. I cried a lot during that time. I tried to feel that silence, the presence of my daughter not being here with distractions just to survive the weight of missing my daughter, not having her there like I used to. And let me tell you, it was not a fun experience. It was not easy and it hurt a lot. So, no, I can't promise you that this fight will be easy. I can't promise you that it'll be fair. But I can promise you this. If you walk away, the damage that gets done to your child, it'll last a lot longer than anything you would have had to deal with going through the court system. And even worse, they may grow up thinking you never cared about them at all. And trying to undo that kind of pain that's in your child once they become an adult more than likely is a whole different level of hardship. So don't walk away. Please don't give up. Fight for your child, even if it's hard, even when it hurts, because your child needs you. And understand this, very important, your role as a father cannot be replaced. And it does matter, especially to the one or to the few that this is all about, your child. So stand on business, be present, not out of bitterness, not to prove a point, but because love shows up even when it's hard and your love is needed. So I hope that this resonates with you. And if you're going through it, do everything that you can to be there for your kids. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be present. And with that being said, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that already. You are 100% helping build a growing community by all means. So thank you for your time. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys soon.